We're only a week away, less than a week away, really, from the NFL draft. I have two of the bigger names in HBCU football, as well as some names that you haven't heard that you need to be familiar with. Oh, yeah, it's Locked On HBCU. Play my music.
You are Locked On HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On HBCU podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics, Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And now, of course, Sam Darrion Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, Texas Southern alum and former TSU Herald Sports editor and current contributing writer at USA Today's Saints Wire. Thank you for going on this journey with me. Make a Locked On HBCU your first listen of the day every day. And remember, just because the mic cuts off does not mean that the journey is over. It just means it's time to follow me on X at South Exclusives. Starts with an S and ends with an S. Today's episode will wrap up with some of the names that you're unfamiliar with. These are draft sleepers, guys who you should be, just be aware of when it comes to UDFAs. Irv Mulligan. His size speed conversation kind of changes with his testing. How much stock do we put into that? And speaking of testing, we kicked this whole episode off with Kendall Bohler, who is an athletic freak on the field, but his numbers didn't necessarily reflect that. Does he have the luxury of saying, look at my tape? Gerald Huggins answers that question and more as we kick off our draft coverage. We continue our draft coverage with our expert, Gerald Huggins, and we're going to break down Kendall Bohler as we kick this thing off. The thing about Bohler that's really interesting to me is we see an athlete on the field. We've seen him make the freaks list for his athletic ability, but I don't think the testing is exactly where you wanted it to be. So how do you weigh those against each other? We often talk tape versus athleticism, but what about when it's athleticism on the tape versus athleticism in the shorts?
Some guys are just some guys are just football players with athleticism. Some guys are just amazing in shorts and a t-shirt. It's like I tell you, I always say the film is what matters, and I just take the film and I kind of bring in the advanced stats, and after I bring in advanced stats, I bring in certain metrics that I like to use as well. I have a criteria that I base it off of, and then the icing on the cake is just to throw some time for when they were not padded and running straight and and wearing shorts and some spandex. Like, it's, for me, the tape will always matter. For Kendall, it's like, okay, he didn't test, because yes, I think the biggest thing with Kendall was we came in with an expectation that was very high, as in, like, we're thinking Kendall Bohler is going to test like a power four or your average power four cornerback or safety or defensive back in general. That's what our expectation was based on him being on the freaks list. The freak list said he was going to be like a 4.4 40 guy with a sub 7 3-cone and a sub 4, not sub 4. That's crazy. That's really fast. Sub 4 on the shuttle. I don't know if people don't understand how really fast it is. But in my head, I'm just like, yeah, I was expecting that too. The leaping ability was there, which he did show. I think he had a pretty good leap. I'm actually going to look it up as I'm talking. But
I'll go ahead. I'll do it. I ain't saying nothing.
Yeah. So I mean, end of the day, yes, the testing numbers mean something, but it's not end all be all for Bohler. Bohler's only got knocked for it highly because why? We came in with the expectation that this young man was going to blow the numbers away. He was going to be 90th percentile almost in everything, just based off what we learned from the freaks list, and this is what we saw on film. So for me,
all right. So hold on, I have his number. So yeah, 4.5 340, 154 10-yard split. Then on the vert, he got a 38 10.5 broad, a 4.37 shuttle, and a 7.27 3-cone.
Now I tell you, it's these every site is different. I love pro days because Lord have mercy, we need laser, because now you have different times all over the place, so we don't know what the scouts have.
Now I will say this: this is the HBCU combine. That was the one I was able to look up the quickest. So if he improved on those numbers at his pro day, sorry, Kendall, I ain't trying to put no bad PR out on you, but that's what the combine numbers were.
Yeah, and I'm going to put it out. I'm went off the RAS. I think that was for his I think his pro day was his RAS score. Now there's obviously a
Okay.
lot of factors that went into that. I think he was outside. I'm not sure. For his RAS testing for his pro day, maybe. But they have him at 4.59. Is he fast? Does he play faster than 4.59? I'm pretty sure he does. The 1.55 10-yard split sounds pretty ideal. The 15 on the bench looks right. He's a very solid, compact guy. He's more compact than I thought. He's pushing closer to 200 pounds. He probably could play a little heavier, but we probably don't want him to play that much heavier. Definitely, we slating him at to be a nickel. The arm length is not really there to the point where you want to maybe keep him outside. So I think for Kendall, just due to the explosive numbers with the 35 plus vert, probably 38 vert, and a 10, 11 broad, which is like really good. You can see the explosiveness on tape. Keep him in a phone booth, let him play close to the line of scrimmage, let him cover the shallow areas of the field, and he'll be a better player for you than just trying to put him outside. And, just due to, obviously, there's going to be guys that run significantly fast on the outside that are better route runners. And, he has some limitations in the off man and stuff like that. So he's more adept to being closer to guys, getting his hands on guys, utilizing his physicality to be able to disrupt routes and stuff like that. So I would probably have him and the nickel, more of a press situation, keep him in heavy zone scheme. I don't want to run too much man if he cannot press from the nickel spot, and we'll just roll from there. But nothing about this says I need to just drop him all the way to the bottom of my board. But for teams that probably were expecting a better output when it comes to athletic testing, he probably went from a PFA to probably around like a mini camp invite guy. But I highly doubt this is the guy that will end up in camp.
Do HBCU athletes, we always try to be realistic. We may not like what the realistic outlook is, but we do try to be as real as possible on these topics.
Mm-hmm.
Do HBCU players have the ability to say, hey, yeah, I just didn't test well, but look at how athletic I am? Like, do they have, because I think a guy from Florida State could say, oh, well, he's more athletic on the tape than he is in shirts and shorts. And they'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll rock with it. But can a kid from
Yeah,
FAMU do that?
I mean, you could, but what's the biggest knock on small school guys? They didn't level competition, level of athleticism they go against on a weekly basis. So, no, you kind of don't afford. You don't have that ability because for the most part, if you look at the guys in the NFL from HBCUs that last a pretty long time, they were pretty good athletes. That's just what. Now I think RAS score wise, I know some teams look at it more than follow that more than others. I do like the RAS score. I'm a little newer to it. I just came onto it probably like 3 years ago. So I'm still trying to learn the inner workings of it. For the most part, it does show. But then you have like those guys that are high RAS that have a lot of technical, just basic football things that are just not there. I actually I decided to just go into like a deep dive on like the most polarizing guys in the draft. So we got Nick. I'm going to pronounce his name wrong.
You talking about the South Carolina guy, huh?
I feel bad.
Safety. Hey, I just say the safety out of South Carolina. I know you're talking about though.
I gotta show love. I try to do the right thing. But we'll just say Nick from South Carolina, and then you have Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M. So I look at those guys. I look at these. They have a perfect RAS score, perfect. But then you look at the tape, and there's just some little technical things. They're just like, okay, yes, if we can tap into the technical aspect of his game and just refine it, oh yeah, we got a guy. But for me, it's like, okay, you've been in the Power Four for 3+ years. Why are you so raw in certain aspects? Why are these technical things such a glaring issue? It didn't take long for me to see, like with Shamar Stewart, I just say he's a very unlucky pass rusher. Like, every time he gets close to the quarterback, the ball's going away, or he'll miss the tackle, or his angle's bad to the cue, stuff like that, counter move stuff. So, and then with Nick, it's just like when you see someone 6'3", 230-pound safety that runs a 4.4 and does all of the explosive. I'm expecting Cam Chancellor. I'm expecting Sean Taylor. That's what I want to see. I'm expecting people to go the other way when you hit them. I'm expecting stopping power. I'm expecting elite explosiveness to the catch point, stuff like that. So when you think of an HBCU guy, they don't have the leverage to just say, hey, listen, I'm not the athlete, but you can trust in my technique. Because they're just like, we could teach technique. We want the athlete. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I did a whole show about that on Monday. talking about how, I mean, I got it from you. I ain't gonna sit here in front like we talked about the athletic profile and all of those things, and all that. That's something that people need to know. So I brought it to the people earlier this week. But yeah, no, that's real. That's how it goes. That's what's mandatory. But I actually do want to talk about the athletic profile of Irv Mulligan, because I saw some things that I didn't necessarily agree with, and I want to see what you think about them as we continue with Locked On HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV. And did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with the Fire TV Stick 4K devices. You don't even need a console for this. All you have to do is grab your paired controller, subscribe, and sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to go. Dive into hundreds of premium titles. I'm talking about EA Sports College Football 25, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, and Avowed. Whatever it is, you can play it, and as easily as you would stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. I mentioned that part about TV because what if you just want to watch something on Max, something on Disney Plus? What if you just want to watch something on Prime, right? You have an Amazon Fire TV. Let's just go ahead and roll with Prime Video. You can do that as well. Just go ahead and head to amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required, of course. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and then Fire TV Cube. As we continue rolling on today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. For your second listen, make sure you're checking out Locked On NFL Draft, breaking it down. We are less than a week away. I'm excited. This is what I have been waiting for. This is what Gerald Huggins is here for. And we're here to discuss Jackson State running back Irv Mulligan. Now, I saw something that I thought was a little curious. I was looking at his RAS score, and we know that different measurements come from different people, but they had him at 199, which I thought it was a little bit heavier than that, but they had him at 199, and then he had him at a 4.5 340. Now, I could see an issue with being under 200 pounds and then running the 4.53. I like his size, speed on tape, but what is your take on I guess the whole situation of Irv Mulligan's size and speed? First off, did you think 199 was his way? I thought he was probably more in the 205, 207, 8 range.
I will say I was definitely surprised when I first saw him weigh in at the HBCU Combine, and they said he was, I think they had him at like a buck and 90 something. I was just like, I don't know. You couldn't tell me this guy wasn't 205 plus pounds. So, I'm just, because, just the way his play style. So now you think like smaller guys with that kind of play style, it's like, okay, now you're kind of having those conversations like, okay, can this play style be long lasting out of someone that's under 200 pounds? Now, I don't know many that are 5'9", 190, well, sub 200 pounds that are like as powerful, get you like a 2-yard gain here, 5-yard gain here, 6-yard gain, like every down backs that are just taking it. Just, I'm thinking about the top backs in the NFL. Most of those guys are like well put together, 200 plus pound guy. But I'm not gonna nitpick because Irv Mulligan could easily put on 10 healthy pounds and be at 209, 210 pounds, and we're having a totally different conversation about weight. And I'm not gonna do all that. So chances are he lost a little weight to run faster. Everybody does it. Trust me. It was like 280 pounds when he played. Now he came in like 260 something. So like it's okay. People do it all the time. So my biggest thing is I will say with Irv more than most, his numbers translated to his film. I can't say that about a lot of people, but I will say.
What do you mean by that? His numbers translated to, you talking about his athletic testing?
Yes, his athletic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, his athletic testing translated to the show. So like you have a guy that's a sleeper that I'm gonna talk about in a second, and then you have like I'm trying to think of some players on top of my head where you just like, what? He's that fast, and you just can't fathom it. Like he's that fast or he's that strong or whatever. He jumps that high, he's that explosive. You just don't expect it. But with Irv, 4.5 40, 4.5, whatever the range may be. It may be 4.3 to 4.6, whatever the range may be. That's Irv. He's not a long speed guy. 10-yard split in that 1.5 area. That kind of makes sense. The explosive numbers show that, yes, that's what he is. He is a burst guy. Like, he has a great burst. So, like, once he gets the ball, he gets to the second level, he has burst to get you that 20. Now, is he going to make it all the way to the end zone from the other side of 50? Probably not. But for the most part, if you get him in the red zone and he's 20 yards, he got 20 yards to go, his burst will take him there. His burst is going to give him early separation from the defenders and kind of mess up their angles, their tackling angles. But if they're able to adjust, then they'll be able to hawk him down. But for the most part, when you think his agility grade too, they gave him a good agility grade. You can see that too. He has some short area quickness stuff. Now, I'm not going to say he's the most shifty guy, creative guy in space per se, but he does have the ability to, sink into his frame, plant the outside foot, give him a nice little quick, what they call the dead leg or something like that. But for the most part with Irv, linear, run through your face, avoid a little contact if you can. He's now, I will say, even though he's 199, he is put together. Now, so it's not like he's not a small 199. It's really 200. I'm gonna stop saying one. He's not a small 200. Even when you think of it, 5'9", 200 pounds is like it's like a little block. It's like almost a fire hydrant. You know what I mean?
As a person who's 5'9.5", gotta mention the half. That's important. All right, just want to be clear. The half is important. But just as a person who's in that range, I know what 5'9", 200 look like good, and I know what 5'9", 200 look like bad. All right, this is a solid, good, like
yes.
5'9", 200. It's a good, solid frame. The only thing that threw me off is I try to put my scout brain on, right? Like my viewer brain versus my scout brain is different, especially when you're projecting. But I sat here and said, okay, if they got him sub 200, even if he's just at 200, I said, man, that physicality with a little bit of speed, they might be looking for a lot of speed from a guy who's let's just say between 195 to 200. They may be looking for more speed, and it scared me, not from him as a prospect, but it scared me for him as draft positioning, because I always looked at him as a guy who could hear his name called, could be a preferred UDFA. I looked at him at that way, and I was like, this might change the perspective on Irv, because I know how people look at the testing. It wasn't my personal belief of the player, but it's how I believe he will be perceived.
Yeah, Irv just so happened to be one of the top FCS running backs in a class that's loaded with running backs. People were talking about there's like 30 draftable graded running backs, 30 plus. So it's like he just came in wrong. It was like the worst draft he could possibly come out of. However, people do like Irv. Teams seem like Irv. Everybody talks about him. I'm not just talking about the media, because I try to disassociate myself with draft Twitter, because I don't because they no. But what I say is, from the people I talk to that actually make decisions that actually matter in football, they do like Irv. Like, Irv is a guy that you could bring into your team. He'll be a locker room guy. He'll be a guy like, okay, he's not going to be our home run hitter, but he could be our change of pace guy. And I said his career arc could be similar to what Emmanuel Wilson is doing with the Packers right now. That is not bad. That's not Emmanuel Wilson. He did the same. Now, granted, Emmanuel was a better athlete, and he was bigger. I think Emmanuel Wilson was about 5'10 and a half, probably like 220 pounds plus. So he's a big kid, way bigger profile. And his linear speed was he had that linear speed, that breakaway speed, and he's had that since he was at Johnson C. Smith back when he was in the CIAA back his freshman year, and then he ended up obviously transferring to Fort Valley State and doing the same exact thing. So, for Irv, let me just say, what do I have here for Irv? Now, you let me know what you think about this. Running back known for compact build, good contact balance, strong pass blocking skills. He exhibits good short area bursts and above average change of direction, and is adept at navigating through congestion and maintaining momentum, while his long speed is average. His tenacious play style and proficiency as both receiver and blocker make him suitable for a variety of offensive roles. I gave him fringe NFL roster back, gap scheme, kind of zone scheme versatile.
I like it.
It matches enough. And this is before the testing numbers. So for me, it was like, oh, that's why I said his film matches his numbers.
Now, let me throw this out there. You mentioned Emmanuel Wilson. it feels like more HBCU running backs from the HBCU ranks. I should say it this way. Running backs from the HBCU ranks tend to translate more consistently than other positions from the HBCU ranks. Maybe offensive line, but they don't get a lot of shine, especially if they're not starting. But I feel like running backs tend to translate pretty well. Am I misguided in that?
I had a really terrible thought as soon as you said it. It's because we can't pass the ball, so obviously I shouldn't have said that. Oh man. But yes, our running backs tend to do better because, well, they're usually the reason oh boy.
Hey man, let's get to these sleepers. Let's get to these sleepers.
When you gotta
We
carry
got
the
more
load.
sleepers. We got more sleepers on the way for the NFL draft. Hey, I said we like to keep it real, so they ain't gonna like you for that, man. They ain't gonna like you for that. And the wide receivers, let's be honest, the good wide receivers dip quickly.
And you know what they do? They can return the ball.
Oh, we got sleepers. Guys, you may not be hearing about in the NFL draft conversations as we continue with Locked On HBCU. As we're wrapping up today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day, making it all the way to segment 3. And I thank you 2 times for that. Thank you. Thank you. I got our draft expert, Gerald J. Huggins, here with me. And we talked about a lot of the big names. Next week, we're going to get to the big 3. All right? We gonna get to the big 3. This ain't Kendrick, Cole, Drake. Ain't no just big me. We got 3 big time players. 3 big time players to break down. We'll do that next week. So I can't wait to do it. But what about guys who are not hearing their name thrown around in conversations? Who are those sleepers that you feel probably need to be discussed a tad bit more?
I want to start off with Jaden Sutton, Delaware State running back, about 5'11", 6 foot.
Running backs. Nice to know.
Yeah, 216 pounds, 17 on the bench, 33 vert, 10 broad, 4.59 40, 1.54 10-yard split, 4.4 shuttle, 32-inch arms, 8.7 on the hand. I saw him play in person because obviously I'm at Morgan State, and this kid is players bounce off of him. His contact balance is very much up there with the Irv Mulligans of the world. I like his explosiveness through the line of scrimmage. I like his ability to withstand contact and not lose momentum as much. Now, he's a bit of a stiff mover. He's not going to really give you much in the passing game at the moment, but granted, I don't think they were utilizing him to do that. I do think he'll be like a linear run at the catch explosive kind of guy, so get him working with screens and stuff like that, little dump offs and let him work. But end of the day, he's more in that. He's more the Emmanuel Wilson build, but he's another one of those, like, okay, change of pace. Like, all right, we didn't work the mess out of our number 1 running back. All right, we're getting close to the red zone. We need you to get us from the 40 to the 20. Can you get us 20 yards and 3-4 plays? And he's that kind of guy. And if he's near the goal line, strong, lower half, well put together, like very wide. He's like a wide kind of back, kind of like he's just a big physical back that I just like, because I just like to see guys that like to keep their legs moving. I like to see guys with that burst. And I like to see guys that have that finishing ability too. That finishing ability to just lean forward and get extra yards. So I will be honest, the receiving ability is what puts Irv above Jaden Sutton, but I think Sutton has become my RB 2-3-ish. I still have love for Jared Hunter because I've seen it. But so when you're just that good, it's hard. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's hard to be that good for that long, but Jared Hunter was a guy that everybody loved for a long time. So I'm not gonna be one of those guys that just fall out of love with him. I do think Jared Hunter is in that RB2, RB3 HBCU running back discussion as well. But I will say Jaden Sutton, for what teams are asking for out of a running back 3, running back 2, I think he could give that. Just physical, tough yards. Give our guy a blow. Let him get his breath on the sideline after we ran him 5-6 times. Bring him back in, and you just did your job. I think that'll be a nice, sustainable career for Jaden Sutton. Worst case for him, I have him right now as like a mini camp, kind of UFL starter. He'll be a guy that's going to thrive if he goes to the UFL.
I can see that.
You know what I mean? And, but he'll be brought into camp and we'll see what happens from there. So that's Jaden Sutton. Then I also want to highlight Philip Webb. Now, I didn't know Philip Webb was coming out this year. I didn't find out till late because he would have definitely been at the HBCU combine because he's one of those straight off the bus kind of guys. He's a big dude, about 6'4", 260 pounds. He put up 22 on the bench, 33 and a half with the vert. He only had a 9 broad, which is pretty good for the defensive end position. He had a 4.7 40, 1.62 10-yard split, 4.4 shuttle, and a 6.9 4.3 cone at 6'4", 260 pounds. That is a sub-7 3-cone at that big means change of direction. So someone that big that can move around that well, you give him a shot. Heavy hand, heavy pop in his hands. I believe he's a Power 4 transfer, if I'm not mistaken. I believe he's from LSU. LSU.
I think so.
I think it's LSU. So he has strong pop in his hands, lower body density. He's very
LSU.
He's the dense kid. He's like densely built. Like if he's 260, if you pick him up, he probably feels way heavier than that. And I think he has some versatility. If you want to kick him inside in some pass rush situations, like a 3rd and long, okay, they run a draw. He's strong enough to be able to be in that 3 technique, even though he's probably there to be more of a primary pass rusher. If he could recover and do some run game stuff in a 3rd and long situation, but for the most part, you could kick him inside. And he could just be, he's one of those true, you don't get a lot of true 5 techniques anymore. True 4-5 techniques. He's like a true 5 technique to me. And I don't want him standing up. I don't want him dropping in the coverage. You were going to be my edge setter. You're going to set a hard edge, knock the guy back, turn it back inside, come off, make you a play or two. Just
dirty work type of guy.
So Philip Webb is a guy that, we love our Power 4 transfers that go to HBCUs. They love them. You know what I mean? It's a thing. And 34-inch arms goes a long way at 6'3.5". So teams love arm length, as you can see. That is the biggest conversation in pro football right now, which still makes no sense to me. But Philip Webb, with the testing, with his reports, with his film, I think, and his pedigree from coming from LSU and being on Jackson State, which is arguably has been the best HBCU football program over the past 3 years. Mm-hmm. He has it all. 8.8 on the RES score. Somebody's gonna bring him to camp. So for me, I have him at the PFA. The only reason he wasn't at the HBCU combine was because of, I didn't know he was coming out. So, that'll be a little shake up. If I will drop my final top 10 at some point. So
yeah, we're gonna have that too, y'all.
Yeah,
we're gonna have that too.
I'm gonna drop it on Blue Bloods, and then we'll come talk about it before the draft. And then I want to highlight 2 more guys so we get up out of here. Go with D-line again because love my D-lineman. Fred Stokes from Prairie View. He was one of those late adds to the HBCU combine, but I just couldn't. There's no way I could have someone that's that tall with that kind of play style just not get a shot. So he came in at about 6'6", almost 255 pounds, 32 and 8s, and 32 and 7/8 on the arm, 33-inch arms. Jesus Christ. 9 hands, 31 on the vert, 10-4 on the broad. Then he had a 4.8 40, 1.61 10-yard split with a 4.5 shuttle and a 7.23 cone. I like his play style. He played really good against Michigan State. Very random that Michigan State played Prairie View. That was one of the most random HBCU Power 4 matchups I've probably ever seen. I think that was just so random to me. I don't know. I think the next most random one would probably be Ohio State versus Grambling. Where did that come from? But cool. But now for Fred Stokes, I like how he gets extension. He's one of those active guys. It may not look the prettiest, so he'll need some refinement on his technique, but he's disruptive. He's very disruptive. Obviously the production wasn't there you would want. If you comparing them to other edge guys in this class or comparing to other edge guys or defensive linemen in HBCU realm that are a little more productive, you're probably But for him, the tools are there. I might have been I don't like using the word toolsy because toolsy just means you have no technique, you just athletic, which is I don't want to knock him. I'm not gonna say that's him. I do think he has some athletic stuff, but naturally when you're 6'5", 6'6", is going to be some leverage anchoring things you may need to work on. So you might need to work on his lower half strength, but I can't see him not being. And it would be a situation where he could put on some weight and be a 4-eye in a odd front, or he could put on some weight and just maintain him being a 5 technique in the even front as well. So he has that versatility to do both. I probably would love to see him, the NFL, put some weight on him. Like remember, you saw Cam Peterson at the HBCU legacy practice. So I'm thinking like that Cam Peterson realm where it's like you could play both. You came out of college in that 260, 270 range, probably put some weight on you. You see Cam Peterson now, he's huge. The NFL could put on weight on anybody for the most part, unless there's some guys you can't. But for the most part, the defensive line guys, they put weight on you, put on a good program. I think Fred Stokes has a long career if he does everything, right. So worst case, he's a UFL starter, kind of mini camp. I'm kind of in between of his PFA or mini camp, but I'm probably going to push towards the mini camp invite. And then, he'll probably do some in mini camp that's going to be like, okay, let's just bring him on.
Yeah, nah, I can dig it, man. You got some sleepers. You got 2 defensive linemen and you got 1 running back. Those kind of been out. Oh, okay, my bad. Go ahead.
You good. One more, only because my boy, I'm just a shout out to my boy Nook. So I want to make sure I highlight one of his guys. So it's Xavier Rubio from Howard. Now, this is strictly off of just, I like him because I'm going to do for him what everybody else is doing for the young man from South Carolina.
Okay. I should look about to say his name, but go ahead.
6'5", 6'0", on the height. So about 6'1", 191 pounds, 15 on the bench. 40-yard dash was a 4.5, 20-yard split was a 2.5, 10-yard split was a 1.54. Vertical was a 43, broad was a 10.6, shuttle was a 4.08, and then he had a 3-cone of a 6.91. His RES score is a 9.43 at free safety. I think for him, he will probably be best played in the nickel. He is explosive as heck. He has burst, darn near elite burst when it comes to him attacking the line of scrimmage, attacking the football. I do think his eyes kind of mess him up a lot in the run game, so he takes some interesting angles, to say the least. But he does have the explosiveness to recover, but you don't want your safety to be recovering too much. So just due to the fact that I may not trust him running the alley and taking the right angle, I would like to have him close to the line of scrimmage, and you could just coach him up to just take away the shallow areas of the field, set the edge. He'll beat up on slot receivers if you have to line up in the nickel. The off-man stuff is a little choppy, very kind of clunky steps when he in his back pedal and his transitional athleticism, a little stiff. But I think with that athletic profile, if you can make an argument to make Nick
Imanwari. Yeah, I looked at it's a bunch of letters, but it ain't really.
Yeah, it's not hard to say.
I think it's Imanwari.
So Imanwari. So
yeah, something like that. I didn't get to listen to it because I didn't want it to play.
So that's how I look at it. If you look at Imanwari and you project to be a top safety, first round pick off the athleticism alone, then no way you can't have a guy that has a 9.4 RES score and at least bring him into camp. So I think with him, he'll be brought into camp. I think he'll be better suited in nickel. Let him use, and just clean up his technique. And I think you have a guy that'll be a core special team guy early. Let him run down there on punt return, kick return. Let him have fun. And
nice little gunner.
Yeah. Worst case, UFL starter or UFL rotational guy. But I think with that athletic profile, you got to at least give him a shot.
Well, you got 2 defense. So now I can recap. 2 defensive linemen, 1 defensive back, and 1 running back. Low key, I would say the top 3 positions for HBCUs in the draft. Actually, beautiful transition. On Monday, we're going to talk about what players or what positions have been drafted the most frequently in recent history and what HBCU players in this class apply to that, because history does matter. So we'll be back on Monday to discuss that, and next week with your top 10. Can't wait, and the other players. So In the meantime, in between time, until next time we hear each other, family, take care, stay blessed. Peace.